Greeting, how are you? I just wanted to talk to you today very, very briefly about the importance of this book. And for those of you that are getting ready to take the equity class with me on September the 19th, it's important to start delving into this. And I want to express to you why. And I also want to talk about trust a little bit in this video to help you see where we're headed together, ascending of the mind, in order to protect not only our family, but our friends and our loved ones as well. So the Bible, why it's important. I got this Bible given to me by my mother. It was a great gift after I got out of prison. I told you guys that I'd read that Bible and I needed one. And she happened to have 5 of them for all the family members. And she gave me mine. So my name is in there. This is a matter of record. This is my God-given birth name, which was given to my mother through him, right? He knew what my name was, and he instilled that in her and my father to bestow that brilliant name upon me. And then when you look at the etymology of the word Derek and the way it's spelt, it's pretty interesting when you start to delve into that. It's really cool. There's a reason that my name is the way it is. And then by Lisa Wilder Leach, she didn't have a middle name, so she kept her maiden name. And this is what women are supposed to do. This was tradition, was that you create a joinder between your given name and the joinder of your new extended family's name. That way you didn't depart from your estate, okay? Very important, and that just came naturally for her. Nobody ever told her to do that. That's just how she chose to do so. So she never walked away from her family and created joinder with the next family of her spouse. It goes on to say mother of 3, naming my sisters, of course, in there. And this was given to me June 10th of 2000 when my record was created. Now, this is very important. I want you guys to understand how important this is. I'm going to share with you some other stuff. Now, I always talk to you guys about being married before the eyes of the state or before the eyes of God. Which one would you choose? Well, being married before the eyes of the state creates a contract. It's a joinder between whether they're unincorporated or incorporated entities. Makes no difference to me. It's a joinder between those entities, okay, in fiction. And then anything created between those two entities, offspring that will soon have registration tags and be registered in the government system, making them property, okay, that you forfeit for not knowing who you are. But instead of being married in front of the eyes of the state, wouldn't you know it? Holy smokes. Holy matrimony before God, your friends, your family, your loved ones, requires nothing to be placed in the public, requires no contract with a third party who is actually part of your marriage, known as the state or identified as the state. And by doing so, you're engaging in polygamy. So if you're a Christian and you think about the marriage license, I want you to understand there are 3 parties to your union because of the choices you have made. And that is frowned upon in this book. Okay. The next thing I want to talk about is the wife's lineage and the husband's lineage. Now, why is that so important? Why is that so important? Well, again, this book is one of the most powerful books in the world. And before around 1776, somewhere in there, when I was looking into land patents, it became quickly apparent to me, and studying the Township Maternity Act of 1921, it became very apparent to me that prior to the government creating more jobs by creating a necessity of records that they could later then manipulate for their benefit, everybody kept their own records. For example, if somebody brought a claim against me, I may have in here warranty deeds or land patents or whatever, and it is in my Bible. Now let me show you how important this is. The Court versus the Family Bible, the legal genealogist. So why in the world would anybody go to court records to verify the date of death? A person with first-hand knowledge, original, because it was recorded in the family Bible by people who could testify or provide testimony with firsthand witness knowledge under the pains and penalties of perjury if they wish, or they could make oath, which is better than taking an oath. You're never supposed to take an oath, you're supposed to make an oath. Your word is your bond, right? This family Bible trumps all public records, provided that you have the right information in it. So I have people that keep telling me that man created the first trust. So we go to the next page, and it's the deaths in the family. Okay? From the time they were born to when they finally traveled on, right? Super important. So in an estate event or a trust that was created, perhaps you ought to stick it in the good book. And the wills for the estates could be attached, see a launch, such and such page, and wherever you choose to place that in this book and have it stuck in there. Now you've got your private records that are recognized by the court. All right? Let's get into this real quick. And I'm going to be quick about it because I got a weekend with my little one that I'm looking forward to. So, Chapter 1. This pertains to some people who have drawn a conclusion that man created the first trust in 1603, which would have been the Unum Sanctum, the world's largest trust ever created. It's the most sinister trust. If you read it, it's pretty outstanding, and nobody's ever rebutted it, okay? And because of that, it stands true as fact and law that the Vatican owns everything living, breathing, from the ocean to the grass, the plant life, to your little ones, okay? And that's what they were claiming in the Unum Sanctum. And there's a trilogy. There's 3 palpables that were created that were detrimental to mankind, absent knowledge, okay? Without the knowledge to defend yourself, or not defend yourself per se, but to protect yourself and your family, you would fall by default within that bracket of trust, whereas they would administer you, okay? Because without God, everybody's perceived to be heathens, and because everybody's heathens, you know, man had to come in and write some laws to keep everybody on the straight and narrow, because they didn't follow God's word, which is really, really simple. Do no harm. Harm nobody else, all right? So, to the first trust, because the first trust, contrary to most people's belief, was not in 1603, with the Vatican and the Unum Sanctum, but was rather found in the book of Genesis. In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth, okay? So, without an estate, there can never exist a trust. In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. There's the estate, all right? And the earth was without form, void. How did you start out? You started out by going to a party with your dad, being shot out of a cannon, going home with your mother, and 9 months later, you came out. But before that, you were void of contract, and without form, okay? Developing, yes? So, innocent. And darkness was upon the face of the deep, and the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the water. And God said, "Let there be light." And there was light. And God saw the light, that it was good, and God divided the light from the darkness. Okay, yin and yang, right? Good and evil, light and dark. We're seeing how it's all laid out. And God saw the light was good, it was good, and God divided the light from the darkness. And God called the light day, and the darkness he called night. And the evening and the morning were the first day. And God called the light day, and God said, "Let there be light, let there be a firmament in the midst of the waters," a firmament, a covering of some sort, right? So when we start to evaluate, drawing conclusions based upon CGI of whether the earth is round, flat, whatever, none of you can put in an affidavit under the pains and penalties of perjury, facing 1 year imprisonment. None of you can testify with firsthand knowledge that you've ever seen a firmament, you've ever seen a round globe with your own eyes, through your own firsthand experience, and nobody can testify that it's flat, all right? We can draw conclusions from scientific evidence of planes not having to continue to tilt their nose of their aircraft down to stay on a certain altitude. If they're going around a globe, naturally, just scientifically, not being a astrophysicist, it only makes perfect sense that in order to maintain a certain altitude around a ball, you would naturally have to be tilting your front end down to stay with the curvature of the earth. But for you Christians out there, it's written in the good word. It's a ferment. We live in a jar. Maybe that's what they're trying to hide from us. I don't know. But it's to separate the waters, right? And we'll read that further on in here. But the reason I'm reading this to you is to show you that man has never created anything. We've discovered things. Don't get me wrong. We've never created anything. Everything that already exists today has existed before. And when we look at the hieroglyphs in Egypt, we see that they have flying craft. They have similar shaped triangle depictions and images of their kind floating around, which appears to be in the air, which is interesting. And through more scientific discovery, geologists and whatnot, they're starting to find out that over in Egypt, they actually had something that was similar to nuclear reactors, which is really, really impressive. So to say that the generation that exists today is the best generation that ever existed, let me remind you of the architectural marvels in other countries where they have got less than 1,000th of a 16th of an inch of perfection. And today, being in construction for all these years that I've been in it, we still don't have the technology, or at least it's suppressed from us, to do the same feat. We look at some of these towers, some of these things over in Rome and the Colosseums and stuff that were built with such precision they stood the test of time, ladies and gentlemen. It's absolutely phenomenal. They withstood natural disasters. They withstood so much. I believe it is in India. They actually have mountains that have been carved out, and it's a physical impossibility with the tools we have today to do it with such detail. So what I'm trying to tell you is there's nothing new under the sun. Man doesn't create anything. We discover things and then we implement them and use them to mold, quote unquote, what they depict as society. But I'm back to the trust issue. The first trust created is right here in Genesis. I'm going to get to it. And God made the firmament and divided the waters which were under the firmament from the waters which were above the firmament. And it was so. Okay, he who creates is master. All right, you can only serve one master, right? And he is the one that's creating the estate right here. He's showing you the estate, and I'm about to show you the first trust. And God called the firmament heaven, and the evening and the morning were the second day. And God said, let the waters under the heaven be gathered together unto one place, and let the dry land appear. And it was so. And God called the dry land earth, not the world. He called it earth. You can't be of the world and on this earth. You cannot do it. You're either part of one or you're part of the other. Okay, you're either part of the light or you're part of the dark. What I mean by the world is commerce. Okay, man can interact with commerce, but man is not commerce. So there needs to be an entity for which you can interact with through title. Not standing on title, not with title, but through title, protecting yourself. And God called the dry land earth, and the gathering together of the waters called he seas. And God saw that it was good. And God said, let the earth bring forth grass and herb, yielding seed, and the fruit tree, yielding fruit after his kind, whose seed is in itself upon the earth. And it was so. Monsanto cannot take God's creation and patent it. But what they have been able to do is man has found a tricky way to try and play being a little demigod through corporations where they can chuck their morals out the window as they walk in the door. Okay, because they're doing this on behalf of their principal as a trustee to benefit their principal, right? So what they're doing morally is wrong. And if they sit there and actually think about what they're doing, at night I don't know how they sleep with themselves. Because Roundup and all these chemicals and all these genetically modified foods that they proclaim we need in order to feed the world are actually detrimental to our health. It's a soft kill, okay? They don't want this planet populated the way it is. It's a threat to their structure if too many of us gain knowledge. The masses, just a few, can stand up and alter the trajectory that we're headed on, all right? And I can tell you this, the trajectory we're headed on is from invisible chains to real chains. And if you don't believe me, start studying the prison, all right? Because the prison is a for-profit prison system, all right? That's slavery. But they use a menagerie of words to get you into a contract, and ignorance of the law excuses no one. Why? Because we are all responsible for knowing the contracts we enter into. I'll read on. And God said, let the earth bring forth grass and herb, yielding seed, and the fruit tree, yielding fruit, after his kind, whose seed is in itself upon the earth, and it was good. And the earth brought forth grass and the herb yielding seed after this kind, and the tree yielding fruit, whose seed was in itself after his kind, and God saw that it was good. And the evening and the morning were the third day. And God said, let there be light in the firmament of the heaven, to divide the day from the night. And let them be for signs, and for seasons, and for days, and years. And let them be for lights in the firmament of the heaven, to give light upon the earth. And it was so. And God made two great lights, the greater light to rule the day, and the lesser light to rule the night. We're getting to it. I told you I'd show you the first trust, and I'm about to show it to you. He made the stars also, and God set them in the firmament of the heaven to give light upon the earth, and to rule over the day and over the night, and to divide the light from the darkness. And God saw that it was good. And the evening and the morning were the fourth day. And God said, let their waters bring forth abundantly the moving creatures that hath life, and fowl that may fly above the earth in the open firmament of heaven. And God created great whales and every living creature that moveth, which the waters brought forth abundantly after their kind, and every winged fowl after his kind. And God saw that it was good. Equitable by nature, it was good. And God blessed them, saying, be fruitful and multiply, and fill the waters in the sea, and let fowl multiply in the earth. And the evening and the morning were the fifth day. And God said, let the earth bring forth the living creatures after his kind, cattle and creeping things, and beasts of the earth after his kind. And it was so. And God made the beast of the earth after his kind, and cattle after their kind, and everything that creepeth upon the earth after his kind. And God saw it was good. And God said, let us make man in our image. So powerful. All right? If you are a bondservant in Christ, it is very important fundamentally for you to comprehend and understand you cannot serve two masters at the same time. It can't be done. And because you are a bondservant of Christ, no other master can order you to do anything, because you are already owned by the Most High. You are his blood. You have the same blood as Christ that ran through his veins. And it tells you in Proverbs that you are a God. Why else in the Ten Commandments would he say, put no other gods before me? It wasn't the little gods that man created, Zeus and all this other stuff. No. He made you in his image. You are of him. You are a God, but you are to put no other God above him. That means your wife, your offspring, your dog, anything else above him, before the Father, your Father. After our likeness, and let them have, here it is, the first trust, ladies and gentlemen. And I care not who argues this. I care not what one law professor says about this, because it's written on your heart. And if you will just hear and take heed in my words, I am going to show you the first trust. I showed you the creation of the estate, and here's the first trust. and let them have dominion. The grantor settler to the grantee, being you made in his image, are being made a trustee over his beautiful creation. Not to destroy it, not to plague it like a cancer on the earth, but to build, to grow, to multiply, to help your fellow neighbor. If you remember, Christ wasn't free from sin either. He wasn't 100% free of sin. We're missing some books in here that probably explain his childhood, but he wasn't perfect either. Okay? And the thing is, we know that he wasn't perfect. We know that he didn't quite meet the Father's intent through Christ. And how do we know that? Because in this book it tells us that we can do better than Christ, his only begotten Son, right? Okay? His special gift to the world. He says that not only can you do better, but you have a moral duty and obligation to do better every day. So when Gandhi rings out with the words saying, be the change you wish to see, that's literally what it takes to move mountains. All it takes is a thought. A thought. You want to know what governments of the world are afraid of? A thought. They can't stop it. It doesn't matter how many people they euthanize, how many people they vaccinate, how many people they try and dump down, how many people they try and kill with GMOs. It matters not. Because that thought is so dangerous. It's so penetrable. It cannot be stopped. That movement can never be altered or changed. And this book will show that to you. It will show you how much power you have. I walk with no fear into any courtroom. There is nothing that another man or woman can conceivably do to me that can harm me, that can scare me, that I won't see just compensation for their egregious action, their egregious breach of the trust, their egregious breach of the trust with him, through him, in him, by their oath. So help me God. You are supposed to be administering the grace of our Heavenly Father, and if I catch you slipping, I will absolutely hold you accountable, because that's what we are to do as men and women in this great land, and not only this great land, but on the entire earth. We are supposed to take care of one another. So there's the first trust, ladies and gentlemen. The estate was created, the heavens, the earth, the fowl, the fish, everything. And here he says in Genesis 26, that I have given them dominion over my creation. Grantor, settler, to grantee. And what do you have to do? To receive it, you have to acknowledge and accept it. Does it have to be put on public record? No, it don't. It's right here. This is my record. This is the truth. It speaks nothing but the truth. And although the parables sometimes are hard to understand, they're put in place to make you think. Because again, free will was blessed upon you, and not even the good Father would question his decision to give you that free will. And so religion and the freedom of thought, I will never try and change your belief, and nor will the Heavenly Father. He can only show you the truth, and it's up to you, after the seeds have been planted, for you to ascend of the mind and grow to such a development that you no longer fear anything. You walk through the shadow of death, knowing that he's before you to protect you, behind you to catch you should you fall, and to walk alongside you if you need someone to talk to. That's how powerful this is, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to go over some of this stuff in the trust class coming up, in the equity class. We're going to be talking about getting you to spiritually ascend of the mind, because what's truly being hidden from you, the true value, is the spiritual wealth that you have within yourself, to help your neighbor, to help your friends, to help your family, to support one another, to realize and identify that you're not a heathen, to remove all the presumptions and assumptions that the public court system would have. It's not a true judiciary anymore, ladies and gentlemen. I watch so many people go to these Senate meetings and these House of Representatives and Congress and trying to speak. And you know what I find very interesting is a man such as myself would be granted 3 to 5 minutes. And if I talk to everybody else in the assembly, I could probably get a few more minutes from each participating member. At the end of the day, I would be egregiously limited. Now, is your government listening to you? Are they even a government? No. Title 28, 3002, 15A, they're a business. And you're stifling their business. So you get 10 minutes. But Big Pharma comes in. Big Pharma can get 2 weeks before them on the floor of the House of Representatives, the Senate, the Congress. Why? Because it's business, baby. So take control of the reins. Take the helm. Navigate your ship through those treacherous waters. Jesus didn't walk on water. He walked on the sea of commerce. It's a parable within here that people don't see. And it tells you you have to have the eyes to see and the ears to hear. You only have one mouth and 2 ears and 2 eyes, which means you should see and hear twice as much as you speak, which means you should read twice as much as you speak, right? So thanks for joining me. I look forward to seeing you guys September 19th. The First Trust again. It's right here. It's in the good book. It's there. This, ladies and gentlemen, is how the Americas were founded. All right. So when we look at the people going, oh, the Hispanics are coming up here from Mexico. Oh my gosh, we got to stop that. They're Mexicans. They're not Americans. Get out of that mindset of the shit that's promulgated in your brain, forced down your damn throat by the news media and the politicians. It's simply put in place to create controversy to divide you. They're Americans just like you are. There may be Central Americans, South Americans, North Americans. They're Americans. But nevertheless, before they were an American, they were a man and a woman. They're a brother and a sister to you. Period. If all these people are so evil in the world, how come we don't have state patrol that walk with each and every one of us? How come we don't have National Guards that take the street and hold our hands every day to walk to school? How come our babies aren't protected at the utmost? The most precious thing in the world is not oil. It's not electricity. It's not water, although it's comparable to what I'm about to say. It's the future offspring of this world. It's molding their beautiful minds to be free thinkers to make this place better than it once was. There's no reason we shouldn't be working on building a Garden of Eden at this point with the technology we have. There's no reason we shouldn't be doing that. In our communities, every community should have an in-ground greenhouse with a reverse osmosis system in the community. You want to talk about eliminating viruses and bacteria? Get rid of your sewer systems and implement a reverse osmosis system containing your family's waste products and everything else, and filtering it all out and reusing it and keeping one of the best resources we have, fresh water, which is the largest world war that will ever be fought. Will be over water, ladies and gentlemen. Make no mistake about it. And nobody's told me that. It's just common sense. It is the substance and source of all life is water. So thanks for joining me. Look forward to seeing you in class September 19th. It's a $100 donation for my time. The books and literature will obviously be gifted to you. The PowerPoint is already put together and saved this time. And thanks for your time.